guys, it's Leanne Scott here from MOVE Therapies in Osoyoos, British Columbia, Canada, and today we are going to talk a little bit more about fibromyalgia. So last week I did a very short video in regards to fibromyalgia, just basically naming some of the symptoms that come with fibromyalgia, chatting also a little bit about the fact that the symptoms of fibromyalgia vary greatly from person to person, and that's one of the reasons it can be a difficult condition to have. It's a difficult condition to diagnose because there isn't like a test that you can take where physicians can say you have fibromyalgia. So thus it's difficult for a person that has these conditions or these symptoms. And the fact that when they're chatting amongst themselves on social media or amongst friends, if they have another friend or family member that has the condition, it's very different from person to person. It can be environmental, it can be an all over intense ache, it can be joint stiffness, it can be localized pain. So it is really different. And it's also generally women, but not always. So yeah, it's an elusive condition. And so what I came on here today to talk about is I like taking our past clients and thinking about what did we do with them that seemed to help them, because of course that's why most people are probably listening to this. If they have a condition or have a loved one that has the condition, they want to see, if it's worked on with us, what is it that we do. So that's the reason I'm sitting in front of this poster here. We treat all of our clients with these, what's called the 9 essentials, with these in mind. But in particular, a person that comes in severe chronic pain, especially if it's an all over chronic pain, they need to be treated in a therapeutic type way, differently, in my opinion, than the traditional strength or stretch modalities. Because, well, let's be perfectly honest, if you're in severe pain, stretching extremely, it can be just not even in the cards. Some people just say, I can't do the positions or the stretches or the strengthening that I've been asked to do. It's just far too painful. Existing hurts. So how could I do, extreme movements? So the reason I bring that up is you'll see right away, we move people. This is literally how we touch or move a person when we work with anyone, but particularly with someone with fibromyalgia. We move people with what's called movement with attention. And that means we ask them to pay very close attention to what we're doing, and we move them very detailed and with absolute attention. And by that, I don't mean that other modalities don't pay attention. That's not what I mean. What I mean is it's a different level of attention. I will move them in trajectories, say on a sundial. If I move their hand this far and then back, and then again, it's the attention is paid due to the fact that I go just a hair farther and then back. That's just an example, but movement with attention is very, very key when working with a neurological condition. Number 2, slow. I don't know, just think about it. If you're in severe chronic pain and someone that is moving you, that is trying to help you, or you yourself move very fast, it's incredibly painful. And we are not here to teach you that movement is painful. Trust me, a lot of people say, I know that. I do that a lot on my own. I don't need to come in and see you and do it. So slow is another way that we approach our clients, that wakes up the brain, that draws attention, that asks the brain, what's going on? Why are we moving so slow? How are we moving when we move slow? And that's what we do here. And that's, one of the reasons it works very well with people with fibromyalgia. The next one is variation. We rarely do repetitive movements. And it's another key way of moving that we recognize, that I use the word wakes up the brain or asks the brain to pay attention, because when you're doing variations, very tiny variations, and not repetitive, lift this, in the same motion, again, it requires attention. It requires the brain to listen. And again, it also, on a very pragmatic standpoint, a lot of times a certain movement might be okay for someone, but just the slightest variation can be a really, really okay way to move. So it's a good learning tool for them too, that they can move in different variations and not just repeat the same movements, and it doesn't feel as bad. So it's another good sort of wake-up tool. We won't go through all of these, by the way. Subtlety, number 4, is similar to slow and movement with attention, but we mean it. When we move you incredibly subtle, in very subtle ways. Again, the variation is very subtle. The energy and input that we do is potent and very clear, but it's in a subtle movement. Nothing extreme, nothing aggressive. Again, with someone with a lot of pain, that can really, really help. Enthusiasm, number 5, it's key. It's physiologically mandatory that the brain recognize that good things, that the body is doing good things and they get congratulated by it. It doesn't mean we throw a party for every movement, but I'm here to tell you that if we get some movement that the person hasn't had in a while, it's celebrated, and it's very good for engaging the brain and getting the brain interested in what's next. Flexible goals. That's probably as far as I'll go for today's video. By that we mean a lot of people, of course, they come in and they just want their life back. They literally want to be back to what they did before. And we make sure, that's a fabulous goal to have. That's where we want to go to. But we make sure that we instill tiny, flexible goals, baby steps in between where they are now and where they want to be when they're finished with this therapy. So flexible goals, again, is very key for the brain. It's if you watch a baby learn from its infancy until it's 1.5, 2 years of age, they do everything in baby steps, in small little steps. It's the way we know through brain plastic research that the brain learns best, in tiny goals that you celebrate then with enthusiasm, that have no pain, that are slow and subtle, and then they move on to the next step and to the next goal. So those, we'll just stick with those guys. Yes, we will, because the video is getting long. But that is one of those essentials, are a main key reason why I believe that this therapy that we practice at MOVE Therapies is highly effective for fibromyalgia. I'll give you an example of one of our past clients that came to us with severe chronic pain, and within even one lesson noticed distinct changes and improvement. And she'd had it for a very, very long time. I was doing very subtle movements. Her partner was in the room at the time, and I'm sure from his perspective, it just looked like I was holding her. I wasn't moving her because, like I said, remember the movements are very slow and subtle. So it probably just looked like I was holding onto her knee, or I was holding onto her sternum. And in reality, I was gently moving things. And she basically said right away, like you could see in her face, that the joy of, oh my gosh, I can move this. Oh my gosh, I can do this. And in fact, I will say that her partner was a little bit sort of at a loss at what we were doing, but he did say right away, I hate to interrupt. It was about 20 minutes into the session, and he said, I hate to interrupt, but I can't even touch her. Like you're grabbing onto her, but now I'm touching her very subtly, but he felt that I was holding onto her body parts. And up until very recently, he really wasn't able to touch her at all. It's because the pain was radiating so badly. So she said that she countered him when he was like, you're touching her, it's amazing, but it doesn't look like you're doing that much. She was like, oh my gosh, she's moving me so much and it feels so good. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the flexible goals that move things on to that, and they're potent enough, and the movements are fulfilling enough to the person's brain that they want more, that they're anticipating more. And that's what brings them improvement and improvement and improvement, lesson, session by session by session. I think one more quick example, we had another woman come in that it actually showed the pain was painful, but she actually, her condition was showing more in mobility and her issues with mobility. We do have the links to these women's testimonials, so we will put them in, because in this lady's in particular, we did a little clip from her 3rd lesson to her 10th lesson, and of her walking, and you'll see it's incredible the mobility that she had increased because she had no pain. And that's the final thing I'll say. With us, we are looking to move you in such a way that it does not hurt. We always say there's no pain in this room, and then people will often say to me, well, I'm in writhing pain when I get here, so how can I be not in pain on the table or in a chair? I say, well, what we're looking for when you're in that much pain is we won't increase it in any way, shape, or form. And that's a huge plus for people that are in a lot of pain, because rehab can be, they've learned that rehab can be painful and they just can't put up with it. So then they just sit there and don't go on and try to seek out new alternatives because everything has hurt so much before, and we don't do that here. So I think I'll leave it at that. I would love to hear questions in regards to some of the essentials that I mentioned, or any other questions that you may have, comments. We're thrilled to get them. If you want to email them, you can. We'll make sure that that email address is listed. Or if you want to comment on here or contact us by phone, we'd be thrilled to chat with you about fibromyalgia. It's really exciting to be able to help people that have that kind of pain and that kind of condition. So again, it's Leanne Scott from MOVE Therapies in Osoyoos, British Columbia, Canada. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Hope to hear from you soon. Bye-bye.